This is a Harboring Light. This is Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. And my social media will be provided for you, along with Substack and my email. And to add on to what I was saying about conservative take, I think with the series that I'm doing, putting a conservative point of view about it, and then an objectionable point of view about it, and then addressing different issues about the respect of music and society and its impact is really important. And this is what I mean by that. So people, those who are very enthusiastic about music lovers, and those that music is just background noise or all the above. Music is something that's undeniable and that we all participate in and listen to, whether we realize it or not. And even the ones that say they're not much of a music person, they still somehow in some form are a participant of music through other people. And so I think taking my spin on it and delving deep into the different perspectives of music will help, so to speak, to bring light to how music shapes society, where it be, and then get into the depths of whether it be political, whether it be social, whether it be educational, historical, all of these things. And I just want to address these issues and talk about it. And also, ratings are really important, so give me feedback, and whether it be through email, whether it be social media, or Substack, I'd be greatly appreciated. So audio platforms on my Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Overcast, Pocket Cast, these are just to name a few. And I'm growing to the point where I'm on all of the audio podcast platforms, that is. So this episode is where I'm going to delve into Aborigine artists and give some thoughts and just talk about it. And on Friday, I'm going to wrap this series up. I'm going to talk about musical artists that are part of the mainstream, Australian artists part of the mainstream, particularly from the 80s. Because I find that most of the artists that I like, they happen to be Australian, they happen to be from the 80s. But, you know, that needless to say, I'm an 80s fan because the music from that time was something pretty special. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, so I'm going to center everything around Bart Willoughby, his music and his contribution, and particularly with the Peach and Jaugery people. And he's a minoring singer, songwriter, and a member of the Stolen Generations. Bart's music is deeply rooted in his personal experience and cultural heritage. He has studied at the Center for Aboriginal Studies in the Music of the University of Allendale, I believe the pronunciation, forgive me for that, where he formed Australia's first Indigenous rock band, No Fixed Address, and gone on to perform with Midnight Oil, which are one of the bands that I appreciate, but I will talk about them on Friday. Among others, and Colored Stone. This is Mixed Relations and many others. Okay, first formed in 1978, No Fixed Address was also one of the first Aboriginal bands to play reggae rock and to write songs about contemporary politics and the experience of Aboriginal people. Its members, Ricky Harrison, Les Graham, and John Miller, along with Willoughby, all had family ties coming from the mission in South Australia. Willoughby's song, We Have Survived, with its hard-hitting lyrics about the hurt and torment of the white man's world, became an anthem for many, with No Fixed Address influencing the likes of Tooth Yindi and other bands. So, the Page and Jari and the marrying musician was one of the stolen generations taken from his family as 3 years old in the South Australian town of Siuna, believe the pronunciation of that. Well, he puts the storytelling talents down to the bedtime stories he told in the children's hometown where he grew up. He says it took him years to release the power of his own songwriting. As he quotes, when I put down everything, I could actually make people dance. Wow. And also cry too when I do a love song, said Willoughby. As well as No Fixed Address, which was reformed several times and toured nationally in 2023. He is also the driving force behind the band Mixed Relations and played in the Black Arm Band and Tooth Yindi. Okay, in the early days of No Fixed Address, gigs would sometimes be canceled when promoters discovered the band was Aboriginal. But in some ways, the music industry was less difficult in the 80s and 90s than it is now, said Willoughby. Musicians could build audiences through pub gigs, or ring friends to spread the word. He has learned a fair bit about songwriting since then. For him, the music speaks first and the lyrics follow, sometimes with political truths that need to be told. As he says, you tackle it, you make sense of it, and then you give it to the people, but you got to have confidence in what you're singing about. A multi-instrumentalist, he can turn to drums, guitar, bass, and says he's okay on piano. So he recorded in the studio based in Ballarat, Victoria, and he relished every moment of it. He said, I'm like a little kid now, and I'm allowed to go into where all of the toys are and have fun. Willoughby received the Ted Albert Gong at an APRA Music Awards in Sydney. Interesting fact there. Now I want to end by saying these words. Now I find it, now I'm taking this with a grain of salt. I find it very interesting. Using the gifts and the power of music to shed a light on a reality of an injustice, of the real realities that people go through. Now, the harsh reality that this particular artist went through was the uprooting of culture and homogenizing into the main culture and his perspective of living in society, of being the other versus the main society of what is prevailed to be the dominant and the preferred society. Now, when you use your music to shed the light of this and bring awareness of it, it's one thing. But on the other hand, to be a perpetual person of pushing something that's not there is another. So what am I referring to? So in our society today, particularly the Western American society, pushing the narrative that minorities are downtrodden, when that is certainly not the case. It has been an ever-present reality that minorities are, if you just work hard, if you just work hard in America, you can make your way and you can contribute and gain the benefits and the rewards and success of moving upward in society. Now, when you have that mentality that everything is not in your favor, everything is against you, and you rally people into believing these untruths, this shapes society and makes society go backwards, and that's really unfortunate. Now, also plugging into the aspects of Willoughby, when he was talking about how the 80s and the 90s were a better time for people like him to be presented, to speak upon things, and to have the type of style of music. It is a testament to the 80s and the 90s and the arena in which they allowed it, which it was not, some people, there's a school of thought of that it was just if the industry, music industry particularly, can find that money can be had from doing these things, it doesn't matter about the aspects of trying to have the empathy and the moral compass to change the identity, to change the realms of the scope of people who are musicians. It's just a money sort of deal. With capitalism is a great thing, but on the other reality of doing that, you still need to see the aspects of that this is welcomed, and then appreciate that too, that these particular artists were in the music industry and they paved the way for other artists to come and speak and to define the aspects of the music industry. So particularly, he was in Midnight Oil. Now, artists like that, Midnight Oil, I think that they paved the way for more of a conscientious sort of rock. And you see those waves of things going on in the 90s, particularly with the grunge scene. So, for instance, let's go back to this. So, I had mentioned in a previous podcast about Soundgarden and Nevada, bands like this, Pearl Jam, bands like this. So particularly Soundgarden. And how they would focus on the aspects of the reality of the upheaval and the harsh disdain that society has towards not the aspect of it's a dog-eat-dog world, so to speak, and then all men, people are in it for itself, are in everything for themselves, and the survival is the fittest. And then the whole aspect of that means that sort of a parable, but a question, more compass questions of I don't mind stealing bread from the mouth of decadence and I'm getting hungry. So it's begging the question of saying, the old statement to me, now you take this with a grain of salt. So it's another school of thought of, well, you can find means to help uprise yourself. But to beg that question again, it is a reality that whether some people realize it or not, that can happen. And then when you get out of it, you're very appreciative that you found the outlet to get out of it, but not to stay in it and be, again, victimized to say that that's all the only life you can live. There's other alternatives. But that you can be in a situation where you're not in the means to have the money to support yourself and your family, and there's no other, you don't know what to do. So the whole moral compass questions of stealing and the means of survival and the means of things of that nature. And then the whole other question about stealing from the rich per se in order to get the return of people who just grab and are greedy and just take and take and take. Yeah, that might be a thing, but on the other aspects of seeing the reality of the situation of not being seeped down into that aspect of that people who are of immense wealth just have no disdain for anyone but themselves, and that's not always the case. But it's just very interesting. These sort of aspects of music were in the realm of the situation of the historical concepts of the 80s and the 90s, and the conscious awareness of allowing this to be a part of mainstream society is something to really, really sink your mind and think about. Alright, so this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. So on Friday, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about particular artists that I find very interesting, Australian artists very interesting, and delving deep into that. All right, so as Vitamin C said, put a smile on your face and make the world a better place. Tune in, turn up, and definitely take care. Bye-bye now.